We are Chris. We are live.
Hi.
Okay, guys. Can you guys hear us? Okay. I guess no one can hear us yet. I don't even know how many people are viewing.
It actually shows up now, so now
Okay,
I can.
Yeah, Mike said they can hear us.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So people can join before you even make it public.
So is that some sort of a setting thing, or probably?
Yeah, I guess so. And they can't hear us until I click the live button. So this is the first time I use this application to stream. And that's the only way, the only one that I know. I actually had some help from Aaron on Facebook.
Perfect.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We have a very special guest, one of my really good friend, Chris from Norway.
Hi.
So yeah, we'll just hang out and talk a little bit about random things. Oh, there's someone from Poland. So pretty close to Chris.
Yeah, it's not too far. A few countries down.
Just a few countries down. Wow, we're getting people to join. So 42 so far. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm happy you guys are skipping out on football to watch us.
I just came from watching the European Handball Championship, and Norway won.
Oh, yay. My wife is in the back. We have visitors dropping off some gifts. So she's Hi, Min. Hi. Yes. Our friends is dropping off some gifts for the kids.
Awesome.
Oh, Zach, you're watching football and watching us at the same time? Oh, I wonder who's playing right now. So, Chris, football is...
They just don't ask me.
We call it football, but everybody else call it something else, right?
Yeah, it's an American football, or is it soccer? I don't know.
Yep.
One or the other. I don't watch either.
Oh man, I love Red Zone because the Red Zones you can catch all of the action without having to watch the entire game. Some they just show you the highlights basically.
It's like a recap.
Shows you only the highlights.
Okay. That's awesome. Lockdown again in London. Well, yeah.
Oh, you can hear. You can see the chat, Chris.
Yeah, I can see the chat now. Yeah.
So we don't have anything planned, guys. So it's just gonna be random chat, Chris and I, and we're gonna go through the comment section and try to answer some questions. Again, for those that didn't hear me or joined a little later, Chris is from Norway. So there's a lot of things we can learn from our friends way up north. The gardening season is much shorter. So we want to know from Chris how he managed all this stuff and get beautiful things growing. So Chris, what is the temperature like right now where you are?
So it's just around the freezing point. We got this much of snow outside, and it has been melting today. So that's not good because it gets so slippery everywhere since we have so much snow already. But we are expecting to get really down into the freezing temperatures coming around Christmas. So it's going to be way colder.
So I'm in Texas, if you guys didn't know. Right now, it's around 60-something degrees Fahrenheit. The sun is out, and it's just beautiful. I mean, you can walk out there in just a short sleeve shirt. A lot of my plants are still alive in the garden. So it's great.
It's just crazy.
Wow, 12 inches of snow in New York, Mike was saying.
Wow, that's okay for New York.
Yeah.
So next week we are getting 1 degree Fahrenheit. So it's going to be cold.
Wow, 1 degrees Fahrenheit. You know what? I'm so used to living in this hot condition. I don't think I can survive anything colder than 50 degrees.
You probably never had 1 degree Fahrenheit down there, I guess.
No, never. We get occasional freeze for like a day or two. Sometimes it goes up to 4 or 5 days, but that's basically it.
Yeah. So we can get down to about it's normal for us to go down to about -20 Fahrenheit within the winter. So
wow,
that's about
that is very cold.
Yeah, so it's about 30 degrees Celsius minus, and it is really cold. It's freezing.
Yeah.
And we have close to no sun. So I think now these days we have about 30 minutes of sun every day.
Wow.
Because we're so high up north. So we're just on the line with Anchorage in Alaska. So yeah, we're Alaskans.
So does that mean like some days there's no nights, or how does that? Are there?
So the thing is that nowadays we have a half hour of sunlight. It just peaks over the horizon. So we get sun in about 10 in the morning, and it goes down in about 3:30 or something in PM. So, but in the summertime we have sun from about 2 or 3 in the morning until midnight. So
sun at 2 in the morning. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
Never experienced that before. It must be lovely. I mean, how do you? I'm picturing how am I going to sleep at 2 in the morning when the sun is up?
Yeah,
you know, it's different for us.
Yeah, it's just something that we plan for. So if you're outside camping in the summertime, you always try to place your tent the way that the sun won't affect it in the morning hours. So it's a different thing there. So people are not used to those enormous swings in the daylight. So
wow,
it's we can actually sit on our veranda at 10:30 in the evening and still have the sun up.
Wow.
So in summertime, so it's beautiful, but it's even more horrible in the winter when it's so dark and cold.
I think Obsessive Gardener is from California. 63 degrees in Watsonville. Oh, he asked earlier if I grew out the white tie cross with the Staracha hornet. Yes, I did. It's called the Stargazer. It's an amazing variety that produce well. The pods are really interesting. I had trouble growing them in the beginning, but now they're getting more consistent because after different generations, because you know the tie is it's an annuum, and the hornet is a chinense. So when you cross those two, they're very difficult to have viable seeds. So it took a while. And after many seasons, I grew them out, and they're actually really interesting. They taste a lot more chinense than Thai, so they're just beautiful peppers. So yeah, Obsessive Gardener, I did grow those out. Chris Billy is the gentleman that sent me the cutting board that saves everybody's ears.
Awesome, great job.
Yeah, I used to cut peppers on a plate, and that annoyed so many people. And you know, he reached out and said, "Dude, you got to stop this. You know, let me get you a cutting board."
Doing that on YouTube is just throwing a torch in there.
Yep.
That's like one of my most hated videos. I actually wore a T-shirt that says Obama, and so many people hated me on that. And that was so many years ago, and I didn't really, I wasn't thinking about it at all. Somehow that just raised the bar. So
well, yeah, I would imagine, because you know you probably lost half of your viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Gardner, you had to stay neutral and not try to broadcast stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm Norwegian, so I'm if I'm going to do something political, it would be in my country. So
yeah. For me, I'm gonna ask Chris, what's in your air garden? Oh, guys, that is not an air garden. Chris, please show us what you have there. That's amazing product that you built. So Chris built this himself, guys. It's crazy. So I'll
Yeah.
let you take over and tell us, Chris.
Well, this is just my hydroponic setup, and this is one that I made completely from scratch. So what I did was I designed it and 3D printed all the parts, and I custom made my own LED panel and hand soldered everything. I also have electronics in it, so it's connected to Wi-Fi, and I can manage it from my computer, and you can tune everything and see the temperatures and control the fan speed. It's fans up here, fans down here, and it's also got an air bubbler, so you can control that also via the software. So you can start and have an air stone down in the container. And right now, this is just the first really trial I've had now with this, and it's starting to put out pods. I really don't remember the name of the plant, but I know it's a habanero type. I got a seed from Hippie Seed Company, and it's supposed to be really good. And it's supposed to be a clustering chili, so there's going to be a lot of pods on the same branches. So it's going to be interesting. It's just a placeholder, but I'm pruning it almost every day to make sure that it keeps low and stocks up really nice. So yeah, that's this is one of my projects.
Yeah, so Chris has been working on this for a while, and he's actually sending me a unit, guys. So as soon as I get it, I'm gonna make a video, and I'll show you exactly what is all about the product. So as Chris mentioned, he built this from scratch. I mean, all the parts were put together by Chris. So it has all the functions of the what you would see in the air garden. You can lift the light up and down. It does have an air bubbler. You can set the units to turn on and turn off. The light hood is actually more powerful than the air garden unit, so you can also adjust the tuning. So it's an amazing stuff, and I can't wait to use it. And it's 3D printed. So what that means is potentially in the future, other people can actually develop this product in their own home.
Yeah. But it's so the lighting panel is over 100 watts, and I believe the Aero Garden is 42 watts or something.
Yeah.
So it's quite bright, and when I'm growing this pepper, I never stay above 40% once the plant is so high up, because it just completely fries the plant. So, but I've been using it. I've been testing it with lettuce and stuff like that, and they can really take bright light in the early stages if you start with bright lights, and they grow just super fast. So,
that's amazing.
It's a fun setup, and it's also set up the way that you will have sunrise and sunset. So instead of the light just going on and just starting immediately, you will have a gradually raise up to the percentage set in the settings. So so it's kind of okay to have it inside, because you don't get that flickering on and off thing.
Yeah, so, that is quite amazing, because usually a light hood that is 100 watts are usually made for like a bigger space, like a 2x2 or 3x3 tent. This product right here, it is 100 watts. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, so it's overkill, but I enjoy just testing with it and just having fun. And what I have been finding myself doing is setting the light as high as possible, and I have other pots around the planter. So this main container has one thing, like a pepper or a few lettuce, and then I keep all my seedlings around, because the light is so scattered also. So it's nice for that kind of thing. And it's been a tremendous amount of work. I've been working on it for over a year, and it's just fun to see something going now, and it's really working. So hopefully, if I get everything looking like it's okay, I'm considering just trying to open source this whole thing, so people can download the 3D files and print one themselves. So yeah. Just to say that my profession is designing electronics, and that's some of the things that I'm doing in my own company. So that's one of the reasons why I chose to try this project, just to have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, open source is. I mean, I like that idea because you know, it's it. If you have something great, it could potentially be better with the open source. You know, other people can introduce new ideas to what you have. So that's really cool. Aaron's here, Chris. Aaron, good
Hi, Aaron.
afternoon, Aaron. So Aaron is actually the one that showed me how to use the StreamYard, and that's how we're on today. Thank you, Aaron.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, so guys, another cool thing is you see where Chris is sitting. He's actually sitting in a grow room and not an actual, you know, a room. So that's his grow room. So he
Yeah.
has all kinds of stuff. He used to have a whole garden in that room. So he recently cleaned it all out, and so it's pretty clean right now. So there's a huge aloe in the back, but that is actually his grow area and not an actual room.
Yeah, this is so. I have 300 foot squared, 300 square foot. I don't know what to tell. A grow room, a separate room from our main house. So I have it air controlled and moisture controlled, and I use this for all my videos on YouTube. And I've been growing things here for many years, but now I'm just kind of taking a break to get rid of some pests and to just start fresh. So I like to grow things like huge bananas, and I have fig trees and coffee and all sort of stuff. So that's my project going up here, and I'm soon getting started on the new season now, and I'm just looking forward to get down into the soil again and plant some seeds.
You know, the thing that I really miss about the grow room was that coffee plant that you had. I was
Yeah,
like so looking forward for you to like pick the coffee beans and you know make your own coffee. So
yeah,
guys, Chris grew a huge coffee tree inside a huge hydroponic setup. And recently he had to get rid of it because of the pests and stuff like that. But the coffee tree was beautiful. I have Chris's information, his channel in the description, so check there and you can go and watch the coffee tree yourself. It's amazing.
yeah. It is a fun project, and that plant was actually from seedling. It was 1 year old when it started to produce fruits,
Wow.
and it shouldn't be that way. I think it's supposed to take longer, but I guess that I can keep it kind of tropical in here all
Mhm.
year long. So it seems like it's speeding up the process. I see that on other things also, that the plants doesn't really go into that winter state. It just keeps on going. So, but I'm going to get into the coffee again, and I have another year to test, so that shouldn't be any
Yeah,
issue. But
I would
I'm
really
going
want
into,
to see that again.
hmm?
I would love to see the coffee project
Yeah,
again.
it's
It's the
coming.
coolest thing ever because when I was little, I used to grow coffee with my grandfather. So I
Yeah,
had this huge interest in just coffee in general, growing coffee and picking the beans. And I had
yeah,
no idea that you can actually grow it in hydroponic and it would produce in a year. I thought it takes a much longer, as you mentioned. So
yeah.
that would be a huge project and something really cool that people would really like, I think.
Yeah, so the hydroponic thing is, it's just phenomenal for some things, not for everything, but for some things. And I really wanted to experiment with growing traditional trees, if you can call them that, in hydroponic. So I
Mhm.
have a guava tree also, and that's been growing here for almost 2 years in hydroponic. I just cut it down to just a stump now to make sure I got rid of all the bugs. But that one is growing back up, and it's been in water, and it's just thriving. So
Wow.
that was huge. I made a video about it, and it was enormous. So I had to cut it down, but that is a true tree, and it's growing in hydroponic. And I also do the same with a mango I have started, and I'm going to try this year to also do more peppers in hydro, and also I'm going to grow citrus in hydro. So I want to experiment with the whole thing of growing trees in hydroponic, because it grows so much faster when you put them in water and give them nutrients.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing because you know I do hydroponic myself, but I have never done it with trees. Actually, I've done it with pear trees, but I never let it go past 6 months. And you know it's a huge learning experience for me when I watch your video of those trees. I mean, I didn't think that it can, go that long, and the maintenance and all that stuff to get um, the tree to grow for so long in water.
Yeah.
That is just really, something new for me.
Yeah, and I've been experimenting with this. So when I'm growing peppers, I like to grow them, and then I try to take out the plant and change the water and rinse it out, and to make sure that everything is clean and okay. Then I put the plant back in. But with the trees, I've been doing experiments on growing in DWC. So I have air going into the pot. But I've been trying to just backfill and not taking the plant out and completely rinsing it. And to my surprise, that's been working really nice. And both my coffee and my guava just grew and grew and grew, and they really didn't care too much about the bottom of the barrel being and containing older water. So.
Yeah.
What I made is I programmed and made with valves and hoses. So it's an automatic backfill system. It has a level gauge in the container, and when it drops down to a certain level, it will backfill automatically. So because my guava, it's in I think it's called 8 gallon. Could that be, or 30 liters? And it takes it about 2 days to drink up everything. So yeah, I really needed to come up with a solution to have it backfill automatically, unless I would just lose it.
Yeah, so that's quite amazing, because as you mentioned, trees, once they backfill, usually the trees or anything kind of plants, they take what they need and they leave what they don't need behind. So the constant backfill, would that create like certain buildups or like imbalance of nutrients level and all that stuff?
Yeah, that's what I was expecting that, because with my peppers that's the case. So if I'm not careful with my peppers, rinsing it out and making sure that it's brand new water, I get those sort of problems. I've been trying to use the same method with just backfilling my peppers, but they almost always end up with root rot. But with my trees, it's a whole nother thing. It just looks like when the water is settled, it seems like they actually like it more. So they grow even faster. And one trick I learned with my coffee, to get it to flower, because the coffee is supposed to go dormant, and after a drought, when the water starts coming back, it will flower, because it's a sign of spring or something like that. So what I did was I let the water seep down to it was just so much water back in the barrel, and that made the plant go through some kind of a drought, it seemed like. And when I backfilled it, so 3-4 days after that, it started budding flowers everywhere. Wow. So it's fun to experiment with those kind of things, that you can actually simulate those kind of conditions with the hydroponic system.
Yeah. So when it does that, does after time, did you notice any flower drops or any the plants act differently?
No, not at all, because once it started to flower, I kept it at the perfect level. So it was just something to induce the flowering. So it might have been a coincidence, but it feels like me trying to manually do it this way, and just 3-4 days after that it starts to flower. It seems like that's something that would trigger a plant, because I think that's one of the key issues with growing indoors all year round, is that you really don't get those normal summer winter periods, the rain and the drought. And I think it's fun to experiment with trying to simulate those kind of conditions.
That is so interesting. Like I keep wanting to know more about it, and we could forget to read the comments. Guys, I'm sorry we haven't been reading the comments, so please post again some of the comments, so we can try to answer some of the questions for you, or I'll try to scroll up. Oh, somebody asked about your aloe plant, a huge aloe.
Yeah, this was grown from a pup, and only been indoors. and I think it's 3 or 4 years old now. So it just doesn't show on the camera how huge this thing really is. It's enormous, and it's something that I will never ever have the heart to throw out. It just has to stay there.
You can't throw an aloe. You can always use it. There's so many different ways to
Yeah,
use it, like for cuts, for
yeah,
burn. You can actually eat those too.
yeah. I know.
My parents take these aloe, right? And you get the gel inside, and they boil it to get rid of the bitterness, and then they make dessert out of it. It tastes amazing.
Wow,
Yeah,
that sounds
I need to get
delicious.
you the recipe so you can make some aloe desserts.
That would be fun. I just love aloe, and aloe drinks and stuff like that. It's just, oh, I love it.
Yeah,
So
I have a huge one in the back also, and it's 2 years old, and the leaves are just enormous. And every 6 months or so, it puts out like about 10 to 12 pups, maybe up to 20 sometimes. So I
yeah,
keep getting aloe all the time. I keep giving them away, and now I have another 15 pups that I need to get rid of because I don't know where to put them.
yeah.
They're just amazing plants.
This one was actually growing in one of the grow beds that I have designed for.
Mhm.
Initially, it was designed for growing succulents and cacti and stuff like that. But I just had to get rid of so many of the pups from this main plant. I threw out or gave away, I have to say, 2 complete fill garbage bags, two of those black garbage bags, the huge ones, filled with aloe. So and that was just pups from this main plant. So
Mhm.
they are so prolific. And the fun thing about these is that they never get pests. So I think I've tried whatever nature has to offer from pests, and the aloe is just taking everything, no problem at all.
Yeah.
And so this one has actually survived 2 of my hiatus periods in the grow room where I threw everything out.
Yeah.
So, but it's still here, and there's no bugs inside on it. So it's a nice plant for that.
So would a normal season grow aloe outside in Norway, or you have to grow it indoors?
Um, why try? I would say.
Yeah, they love warm climate for sure.
Yeah, and so Norway is like America. It's not huge, but it's really divided in the grow zones because the coastal cities, which has the warm ocean currents, they get a lot milder weather than we have up here in the mountain range.
Mhm.
So, but up here, I've been putting aloes outside. They turn purple, and it's just a sign of cold. So. They really don't like it, and
Yeah.
I can bring one out just to have it displayed, but
Mhm.
it wouldn't grow much. So yeah. But
Ernest, oh man, our friend Ernest. Ernest, you're here. Good afternoon, my friend. Ernest is from Canada, guys. Back to basics. So Ernest, I met Ernest through his channel. So Ernest he used to make a bunch of videos. He's been slowing down lately, but he also has a YouTube channel that he does pepper things and all these other things. And
cool.
Ernest is an old friend of mine, but we go way back. So good afternoon, Ernest. Glad to have you here with us. Thank you for joining us. And Aku asked if Chris is German. Chris is from Norway.
Ich bin nicht ein German. I'm Norwegian.
Yeah. So yeah, we have a lot of familiar faces here. Caroline's here. Good afternoon, Caroline. Caroline makes some amazing salsa. She sent me some, and I mean, I killed that 2 bottles like in a matter of just a few days. It's just she makes great stuff. So check her out. She makes I think it's a family recipe. So she's on not YouTube, but Facebook for sure. So check her out there.
Awesome.
All right, let's go to the comment section. Maybe some people have some questions for you, Chris, for your interesting growing condition all the way up north. Somebody
But
asked about is it good to use what is that ascorbic acid as pH? I don't know what that is. Do you, Chris?
no.
When I use pH down, basically that's what is called pH down. Some people ask if you can use lemon and vinegar as pH down, and you can, but it's a temporary solution. It'll go right back up in a couple of days. So if you use pH down, it'll stay consistent, and it's more permanent than citric acid, which is lemon or vinegar. So I hope that answered the question.
So a fun thing about minerals and stuff like that in water, we are far away from everyone else. So we just live in a mountainside, and our water is just from a dug well that we have behind our house. So it's just the groundwater seeping in, and there is so many minerals in our water. So if you just leave the tap on for a little while, it crusts up like crazy because there's so many minerals naturally in the water and no chlorine, no anything. So I think that's one of the things that contribute to the water quality in the hydroponic setup, because so many of those connected systems have chlorine or stuff like that, trying to break down the water and make it completely dead. And I think that's something that's also nice to see in the plants, is those kind of built-in minerals. And we have 7 pH exactly. So what I do is I only mix in I'm using the general hydroponics, if that's the name, those 3 different types. And I don't even check the pH, to be honest. I'm not sure. I just throw in whatever I should in the mix of nutrients, and I guess the pH goes down a little bit from the nutrients, but I don't adjust the pH after that.
So I guess because of the minerals in the water, then there is no need for the additional CalMag, right? Because you get the calcium from the natural water that you have. Because there are some places where you actually have to add CalMag. So in General Hydroponic, the 3-part series, I don't think they have enough of the calcium and magnesium as as an addition. So sometimes people add that on top of 3 parts to grow like fruiting plants, like tomatoes and peppers, to give it better yield production.
Yeah, we actually have a rich content of both calcium and magnesium in the water. So we have tested the water regularly and got results from that. So yeah, that's probably one of the things that I get away with, because I tend to say I'm using only my water, and that's kind of it. And I guess there is a difference in the water quality that actually can change that.
Ernest said liquid rocks, just like in Canada.
Liquid rocks.
Yeah, so that is really interesting, because here we have hard water. So my water is my pH is around I think almost 8, 7.6 to 7.8. So it's very close to 8. So a lot of the times when I do hydroponic, I mix solutions and stuff like that, I have to use pH down to drop it into the the level that they need.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And a lot of people always ask, is it better to use reverse osmosis? Do you have any experience with that, Chris? Because I don't use reverse osmosis for hydroponic.
I might be wrong, but I think I read somewhere that that's not a good way to go. I'm not sure. I don't remember correctly the article, but it was something about using reverse osmosis water and distilled water and stuff like that. And I think it wasn't a good choice in most cases. So, but I'm not completely sure on that.
Yeah, I think reverse osmosis get rid of a lot of the impurity in the water, so the water is more pure. So it may so people that use reverse osmosis, I think they have to add the minerals back.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of like use CalMag, because those have probably been filtered out. And I think I don't use reverse osmosis. My friends that they have aquarium tanks, and that's what they have to do. They have to use those kind of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys. So thanks again. We have 67 viewers. Thanks again. The people are all over the world. Um, I saw a few comments about my seeds. So I don't sell seeds. Most of the times I just give them out. I usually give them out in on Pepper Lovers community on Facebook. You can find other people that have my seeds already and are willing to share. So you can actually trade and do all this stuff on there. So seed selling is not my thing. Chris and I actually working on something very special. We may do some nonprofit work with the seeds, but that's going to come in the future. It's just a side project that we're working on. So it's nothing planned. We don't have an exact time, but we do plan to sell some seeds for charity work. So everything is going to go to charity. That's that thing. I think I mentioned this a bunch of time. And also, I think this is a great way to just spread the seeds around. You know, there are people in Europe that don't have the seeds, and I don't usually ship overseas. So that's kind of like a big problem for our friends, over the pond in the UK and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna try to do this. So we have multiple places to spread the joy, and yeah. So it's fun work, but it's also work. So
Yeah.
it has to be completed.
So yeah, in the comments, when you do crosses, how many generations can you get in a single year? That's a great question because I actually cheat a lot doing hydroponic indoors because indoors in hydroponic in a small system you can actually get up to 3 generations in a single year because as people know, in hydroponic you can grow plants a lot faster than you can outside. And also when you keep them small they produce right away instead of waiting 5 to 6 months. Let me show you something so you guys know I'm not kidding. I'm gonna reach over and I'll show you. You see this plant right here? There's a flower on there already, and it's about to be a fruit. You see the size of this? So when you grow them indoor and you keep them small, a fruit come out very fast. Like sometimes 3.5 months, and you get like a mini fruit already. And when you're doing it in hydroponic, it boosts the growth, so it does make things a lot faster. So I do cheat often by making my cross speed up using indoors hydroponic and mini systems gardening. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. So
But
and you
I
see
also
that
have a
Chris
thing
is
to
in the
add
back
to
right
that.
there. He has a hydroponic setup that he probably had fruit production a long time ago.
But I just want to add to that because with this plant, I'm afraid to letting it grow too big because that's the main problem with this. And I also wanted to have flower sooner so I could taste the fruits. So what I did, and I don't know if you can see it from here, but I take the root ball, and this is a small root ball right now. So what I did a week ago, I trimmed off almost all of the root ball. So I just left a little bit of those thick roots. And what that does, it really goes into a mode where it starts to flower, and it shortens the new growth. So you get smaller leaves and you get denser distance between each leaf node. So I found that to be a great way to trick the tree into believing it has smaller space than it actually has. So that's nice if you have a little bit larger setup. But like the setup you are mentioning with using small containers, that's just phenomenal for speeding up those kind of processes.
Yeah. And people are very interested in crosses because naturally it'll take, because naturally you can only grow one plant one season. So when you cross it, you got to wait for the next season to get the fruits, and then you grow it for that season, and you got to wait for the next season to see the new generations.
Yeah.
So with indoor hydroponic and in a controlled climate, as soon as you get like 2 or 3 fruits, you can kill the plants and start the new seeds, and then start over and over and over. So you speed things up very quickly. And that's why people often like, hey man, you have so many crosses, how do you do it? That is exactly how I do it. I have a dedicated grow room that I use to just for pepper breeding a while back. I have a 4x4x6, and all I do is breeding projects in there, and using hydroponic and stuff like that, growing mini systems. So they do grow very, very fast. So I get, you know, new projects. I'm working on it all the time. It's really fun because you'll never know what would come out of a pepper when you cross them with another different variety. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And also one thing that's kind of fun that I have been experimenting with before, and I'm going to try it this exact year, this winter, is when I start a new hydroponic pepper. So in a large bucket, what I do is I take 10 or 15 seedlings from different varieties, and I fuse them together with a rubber band, and I plant that, and I trim them so there's only one branch of each, and then you can cross between those leaves, and then you would have all these combinations of potential crosses from just one barrel of peppers. That's also
a great idea. That's really, that is neat. I think I've done it before in hydroponic because I clone things all the time, and so well, you know, some people don't like to use the word clone. It's propagating. So I propagate these branches, and sometimes I overdo it, and I have so many I don't know what to do with them. So what I do is I'll take those branches and I tie them together and put it into one single hydroponic unit. And like you said, it just requires pruning, and you leave the plants to spread out like this, and then they'll have 3 different kind of colors on the same bucket.
Yeah. So it's faster and somewhat easier than doing grafts, if that's
yes,
that's the main point of it.
Yeah. All right, so Chris, let me read some of the comments for you, so that maybe there's somebody that, you know, a lot of people say hello to Chris. Guys, Chris have a channel, so make sure you subscribe to his channel. I have the link in the description below. He does some really, you know, crazy thing. So Chris' background is in technology, so you're gonna find a lot of that on his channel. So the combination of hydroponic technology and gardening is just so fascinating, because I guess that's where the future is heading. You know, there's more people in the world these days. You know, we're crowding places where the land are being scarce. So I think the future is hydroponic, where you grow food on an indoor space, and then you can deliver it next door to the grocery store. There's no.
And there's so many easy ways for families to grow most of their green needs. I would say indoors or outside in a small yard or something. It's so simple to get at least something, and yeah, I think it's something that's going to come more and more, that people try to see, and you see how the world is working now, and it's something that people will be more focused on, I think. At least that's what I feel from all the questions I'm getting. It's more of how do I do simpler things at home, and yeah, it's nice to see that people are focusing on that.
Yeah, you know, and also, you know, when I first started hydroponics, light setup is extremely expensive. Like I used to buy these little UFO lights, and they only cover like an area of 1.5 by 1.5, and it costs $500.
Yeah.
And now you can get like a really good light setup that you can put in a 2x2 tent for like under $100, or even less than that.
Yeah.
So, you know, the ability of people growing inside is much better than before. And also because, you know, sometimes people, more and more people are living in the cities, and they live in apartments. And, you know, you go down to the grocery store and you buy a head of lettuce, it's like $2, $3 sometimes. And you can actually just grow this on your balcony, or like inside your closet or something, and get a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I did a video recently on how many plants you can grow in a small space. And I mean, for my family, I don't think I can ever use all of the vegetable that I grow. I give most of them away because they just grow that fast.
Yeah. And one of those really savers money wise for my family is is most definitely cilantro and basil, because we use a ton of those plants, and when we buy them as plants in a pot at the grocery store, so they're fresh, and it's really expensive in the long run. And if you can have a decent sized pot going with one of those, like for instance basil, all year long, it really is. I always have a tradition that every single autumn I start a new large pot of basil, and we pick from that every single day almost, and it never runs out. It's just growing. So that's one of the things that people really should try.
Yeah, I think basil is definitely one plant that you should try, or if this is your first time, grow basil, because those things grow so fast. But not only that, but like every time you go by the basil and touch it, it smells amazing. And then once you grow the basil, you can clip it and then make another basil, and then from that you can clip it and make another basil, and then you have basil, like unlimited supply of basil. They're really easy to clone. They're easy to grow, and they're just they're expensive to buy, and you don't use all of the stuff you buy. Where you grow it yourself, you can just go pick a few leaves each day and use it, and it's right fresh for the table.
Yeah, and the kids love it. The kids like when you grow something. In my experience, the kids would much rather eat something they can pick in the garden than something bought from the store. They don't like that. But if they're able to come into the house and into the grow room here and pick fresh herbs, then yeah, that's something they're gonna eat.
Yeah, and you know what else? I think it's also really interesting because now that hydroponic is becoming bigger and bigger, I think in the past people think that hydroponic is going to taste really bland, but from my own experiments that I conducted over the past years, you really can't tell much of a difference when it comes to herbs. Like you can't tell herbs like basil that grown in soil or hydroponic. At least for me, I can't tell. What about you? What's your experience on that?
Could you repeat the question? I didn't catch everything.
Do plants taste different as grown in hydroponic as opposed to soil? Can you tell?
Not in my experience. No, they don't taste too much different. But I'm not growing too much. So the nice thing about hydroponics for me when I'm growing, like for instance salads or greens, is that they are so crispy all the time. You never need to focus on the watering cycle to make sure that you pick them on the right time. That's the thing when you're sometimes my wife asks me, can you go outside, grab some basil for the pizza? And I'm going up here and I say, oh, today it's a little bit on the dry side, so the leaves are not crispy. So what we do, we put them in water and let them stay there for a few minutes, and then they perk up. But it's something that's really nice about the hydroponic. But taste wise, I'm not sure. I love them both.
Yeah, Kevin said that when he grow hydroponic basil, they taste awful. That's interesting because when I grew hydroponic basil, I can't even tell if they're hydroponic or not. I just go by there, pick it, and use it, and they smell amazing. They taste just like basil. I haven't had experience where the basil tastes bad. It could be, certain conditions. Well, he said the plants look healthy. That I'm not sure what happened there.
So what I have experienced is that some packets of seeds that I've gotten are actually much worse in taste. So it might be that some seeds have been, I don't know, from some strand of basil that really doesn't taste too well. I'm not sure, but I've never ever had the good tasting basil change taste based on any growing condition.
Yeah, I grow a lot of sweet basil and a lot of Thai basil, and I grow them both in hydroponic and soil. But when I pick them, the sweet basil tastes just like normal sweet basil. You can't tell they're hydroponically grown.
Yeah. So Sir Waddles, if that's the right way to pronounce it, had a question about how to prevent the cilantro from bolting indoors. That is a phenomenal question. Do you have the answer?
I actually do, because I have been experimenting with cilantro. I live in Texas, and I always struggle growing cilantro because it's just too hot. So I take them inside, and when my indoor grow room is too hot, they don't do well. You have to let it cool down because I think cilantros are cool weather plants, so they
Mm,
will bolt very quickly when the weather is just too hot. So
yeah.
they do like the cooler condition, and they will grow without bolting much longer.
But I've found after years and years of growing cilantro indoors, I've found that the easiest way for me to do it is just in small batches with
Mhm.
microgreen style. So I grow them and I trim them once they get their first or second true leaf.
Mhm.
And then we just use that. And that's also the best tasting cilantro. The fresh,
Mhm.
smaller plants are the most tasting because it feels like with basil you can get away with somewhat decent lighting, but with cilantro you really need good lighting to get it to stay perked up indoor and not fall just over straight
Right.
away. So if you have a little bit problem with lighting and of course the temperature, it has to be a little bit cooler, then I
Mhm.
would suggest growing more dense and just cut it once it gets to a certain stage.
Yeah. I think trimming is a good idea because the basil and cilantro are one of those plants where you can actually trim and they will yield more.
Yeah, and also I think that so many people are buying cilantro seeds that are intended to be out in the garden and have certain characteristics, or what's
Mhm.
it called, and they bolt slow and they do this and that. What I do is that I buy these huge bags of microgreen style cilantro,
Uh-huh.
and they taste the same, but they probably don't have the same properties when you grow them for a long time. But
Mhm.
as for just growing it and cooking it,
Mhm.
that's the cheapest herb we can grow because it's so cheap to buy those huge containers of seeds, and then you can just sprinkle in and just cut it down.
Yeah, speaking of microgreens, those are really interesting to grow, indoors because they, in a matter of 7 to 10 days, you have beautiful microgreens to use. Sometimes the seeds could get a little expensive because of shipping, but if you have a way to get the seeds locally, it's actually not too bad. You can grow beautiful microgreens inside and harvest in around 10 days or so.
Yeah.
Like sunflowers. I love growing sunflowers because they're really crunchy and nutty. Um, uh, bean like peas. Peas are great. They
Stir
taste
fry with
amazing.
some fresh garlic or something. Oh, it's just perfect.
Speaking of garlic, remember when we talked about those garlic plants, the wild garlic plants that you had? Is that
Yeah.
what were they called? Ransoms?
Ransoms. Yeah, they're called
I mean,
ransoms.
I'm so fascinated by those plants. I mean, I think they grow in places where it's wet and where the streams are. And
Yeah,
when you show me that they grow wild in your area, I was like so wanting to see it so badly.
it is a phenomenal plant. It's kind of like finding gold, I would say, because they taste so good and they grow everywhere here. And the only requirement for them is that it has to be moist and it
Mm,
has to be bad lit. So
mm,
it has to be on a forest floor or something like that. So what they do is in the springtime they put out these beautiful green leaves,
mm,
and you can just pick them and eat them. We use them when we grill a burger or something. We just put it on the grill with the cheese and everything,
mm,
and it just kind of like bakes into the
uh-huh,
burger. It's a phenomenal plant, and then it starts to flower. And when the flower drops, the leaves drops, and everything goes down into these small onions under the ground that will eventually come back next year. So it is a phenomenal plant, and we've been talking about it. And I really need to try to get some seeds from my plant and send them to you and see if it's even possible at all to grow it in Texas.
that would be nuts. Video that I requested you do in the past was that, I want you to go in the field and film the beautiful scenery because you live right by the beautiful lake. And
Yeah.
you haven't you shown it a few times, but it was really short. It's like I sort of want like a documentary of you walking around the area, showing us the countryside and the hills and all these
Yeah.
beautiful plants that you have, because we don't have that here.
Well, to be honest, it's in the works. I did buy a new drone,
Mhm.
so
Oh
I'm going
wow.
to use that to film the area, because I want to make a special this summer, just looking around. And as we've spoken about, we have the ransom, and we also have wild, what is it called, sorrel, I think.
Hmm.
We have that growing wild here, so the fields outside our house is just filled with sorrel all summer. And there's so many fun things to look at here. And it's the same way I feel about your nature also. You have more the cactus, and you have the all those agave, and everything that's exotic to me.
Uh-huh.
And vice versa. We both have things that are normal to ourselves, but really exotic to everyone else. And that's the fun thing about living that way. And like when you speak about my herbs and spices that I have outside, for me, it's, well, they've been there my whole life. I really don't pay too much attention to it, but it's interesting for others. And same with you also. You should go more out there and look for something fun like that, local.
That would be cool. Oh, so Miller's Garden asked where you get sorrel seeds. Sorrel is actually really easy to get. All you have to do is search for sorrel seeds. Most of the time, you're gonna find the common sorrels. They're really easy to get, and once you grow those plants, you will have sorrel years after years after years, because they're perennial. They won't die. There's another variety called the French sorrel. I think the leaves are a little bit smaller and darker. So both varieties are great to grow. They multiply like crazy underneath. So when you grow them in the same spot, next year you may have a few more.
But how the sorrel that you plant and grow, how tall does it get?
Um, the leaves can probably get to maybe a foot long, and
Wow.
they're pretty big. Some of the leaves are really big. And the cool thing about sorrel that I notice is that when I harvest the leaves, you just pull on it and it'll come out from the bottom, like the whole leaf. So
Yeah,
they're really easy to clean up. So they're really cool. I love them. And
that's awesome. So the ones that we get, the leaves never get above this size, but it grows on a thin stalk,
mhm.
and it gets to about 3 feet.
Oh wow.
So it is that's the wild variety that we have here. But the taste is exactly the same that when you go into a greenhouse and try to taste the sorrel there. So the taste is the same, but it's so different plant.
The ones that I grow, the leaves are massive. They're like the palm of your hand.
Wow.
And, they
That,
look really interesting. And the cool thing about sorrel is like the pests don't like them. Like no pest eats sorrel that I've seen. I mean, they just grow like crazy, and no, you don't have to tend to them.
yeah. Maybe I should bring some inside here.
Yeah, those are one of the plants that I always have in the garden, because you really don't have to do anything to them, and I eat them all the time. So I just love growing those.
Awesome.
Oh, so speaking of in bringing things indoor, people are asking about mites problem. What is your best way to say prevent mites, and then also to treat mites if you have them?
Well, it was just lagging a little bit. What the last
Um,
about mites?
I think the questions that people have been asking for a while, that like say if you have mites, say how to prevent mites and how to treat them if you have mites.
That's a hard topic because it all depends. So if you're doing small setup, you have a few plants,
Hmm.
then it's kind of easy because you can treat everyone at the same time and just make sure that everything works. And you can, in fact, you can repot all the plants just to make sure that you get rid of the problem.
Hmm.
But in my case, I have, when I'm really going, I have between 100 and 200 pots of soil. And when you get a problem like that indoors, I've found the only way I can combat that is not by spraying, because I'm trying to be careful spraying pesticides indoors. I really don't enjoy that. And if you have stuff that you're going to eat, I wouldn't recommend spraying it at all. So what I've been using is beneficial mites. I've actually been buying them online. And like, for instance, for something that's a huge problem for so many people is the fungus gnats, those small flies. For me, they can come as much as they want. That's just food for some of my mites. I did buy, when I started my garden 5-6 years ago inside here, I got some hypoaspis miles, they're called. They're small, tiny mites that live in the soil, and they survive on the larvae from the fungus gnats. And those are still plenty around. And it's just easy to get rid of that kind of problem with that. But other than that, if I have a single case and I can isolate that, I would say spraying it with soap water. That helps. If you do it day after day after day, washing, rinsing, doing it over and over again, they are so tiny. And like the ones that I've been having the hardest time with now is mealybugs. And those are so small, and they lay about 500 eggs each.
Wow.
And there's really no way you can see that. And if you treat it with neem oil or pyrethrin, it's okay, but they don't kill all the eggs. They take the adults or the living ones, but the eggs stay and they survive. So you really don't get rid of the problem, especially if you have a huge plant.
Yeah. You make a good point. When you have a garden of your size, the best way is to have other predators to eat the pests. And you know, a lot of us here, we have like a small tent, and I've been growing in small tents for a while, like a 4x4. So I get mites all the time. Mites are one of those most ridiculous pests that you will have in an indoor setup, because even if you spray the entire tent, they have eggs already laid and they'll come right back. So the way to treat the mites is you have to have a schedule, right? So you spray the schedule. You know, make sure you use safe stuff. That, like, people mention neem oil. And you have to also be very careful when you spray neem oil, because neem oil can burn your plants. And so what that does is, if you spray with neem and you spray heavily and you forget to kind of wash them off, the next day the lights come on, it'll damage the leaves, and the leaves will change color, and the flowers will fall. So neem is a good way to control it, but you also have to kind of like be careful how you use it. And also you have to put your plants on a schedule, because once you spray their tent, what that does is it kills the adult mites, but the eggs that have been laid has not hatched yet. The mites have this really crazy casing around the eggs, so even if you spray, the eggs won't die. So then the new cycle will start. And then, you know, some people think like, oh, you know, I already sprayed it, they're dead. And then and you go on with your business, and then you forget that the eggs will hatch in about a few days later, and then those become adults, and the problem starts all over again. So treating mites, you have to have a schedule until, you know, you get rid of everything, or else they'll just come right back.
Yeah, and also I see a lot of comments that people talking about pest control, and they are saying, well, don't worry, it's organic. But it can be organic for sure, but it can still be poison. So not everything in nature is healthy. So even if it says organic, it's easy to misunderstand as it's something that's food safe. But that's not the case at all. So with neem and pyrethrin and all those kind of organic pesticides, it's important to remember to wash and rinse and everything, because it's really not safe at all to get it in the system. So be careful with it.
Yeah, and since we're on the topic of pests and indoor growing, I get a lot of questions on fungus gnats. So as Chris mentioned, he used these mites that will eat the eggs of the fungus gnats. That's a great way to naturally get rid of the fungus gnats. And you know, in a grow room like your size, they're actually not too much of a problem because they become food for the other beneficial bugs. I grow in a 4x4 and I get fungus gnats all the time. And over the years, I have tried many different things. And usually, the best way is, of course, first the preventive measure. I made a video on preventive measure, how to not bring them inside in the first place. But if you already have the fungus gnats, there are ways to get rid of them, but it does take time because fungus gnats multiply like crazy. They'll lay eggs in the soil, and then 20 will come the next day, and then 40, then 100. So the best way to use to get rid of fungus gnats is, uh, of course, you're gonna have to have patience. But there is this thing called mosquito bits. Have you ever heard of that, Chris? Mosquito bits?
No,
So
no.
mosquito bits are, they advertise it as all natural, but of course you have to be careful with everything. Mosquito bits are, these little things that you can soak in the water, and then you water your plants, and it comes with these natural, uh, uh, predator, BT. Yeah, I think that's what it is. It'll kill the larvae, but what happens is it'll kill the larvae, but it does it slowly. So because the larvae has to eat something in the soil for it to die. So for those larvae that are about to hatch, they'll hatch again. So you have to repeat the process. You just keep watering with these mosquito bits, and then your numbers will go down. It will go down. It will go down, and eventually you get rid of them. But if you stop using it, the fungus gnats will start all over again. So there's different ways. Like you can use the combination of mosquito bits, and you can also use traps. That way you can trap the adults while you kill the larvae. And you can also use the old school trick where vinegar and salt and water and some soap that kills the adult as well. So use all those combination, and then in a little while it'll get rid of everything and the numbers will fall. So that's the best way to do it. Yes, Ernest says mosquito dunks. Yes, those are, I think they're the same ingredients.
So one other thing that's really effective I've found when I, for instance, with our indoor plants in the house, is to stop watering from above. Try to water from underneath,
Right.
so from spray or something, because the only way for fungus gnats to procreate and survive is for the soil to be somewhat moist all the time. So they will only lay the eggs, and the larva would only survive if it's moist.
Right.
So if it's bone dry on the top and it's moist underneath, you will get rid of most of that problem almost straight away. So that's also a really nice way to do it without using any chemicals at all.
That's another good point, because I did a video on using diatomaceous earth to get rid of fungus gnats, and I got rid of all of mine. So what happens is, in the beginning, when the plants are small, you have to water from the top, and watering from the top keep the surface level really moist, and that's how they get in, because they need around, if you have 2 inches of dry soil, they can't get in, so they'll die. So in the beginning, I had to water from the top. Then I get a ton of fungus gnats, and as my plants grow, like you said, I water from the bottom. So once I start watering from the bottom, I put a layer of diatomaceous earth on top. So as soon as they land on it, it sticks to them, and then they die. You stop the cycle because they can't get in, they can't lay egg. So only the eggs will come out, and then once the egg come out, they need to lay egg. They have to go back in. But if they can't go back in, you stop the cycle and you kill them completely. So diatomaceous earth on top of dry soil also will help. And then water from the bottom, as Chris mentioned.
Yeah.
So yeah, pest is a a big problem. Somebody else mentioned, how about steel wool? Steel wool is basically the same concept. You put it at the top of the soil to prevent them from flying in and flying out. I don't use steel wool, but I think that probably work on things that you don't eat, like flowering plants. So when there's plants that you eat, try to read the ingredients, and try to use the safe products as you can.
Daydreamer has a great comment actually about letting the spiders eat them, and that's a fun thing, because I always promote my spiders here in the grow room, and I try to get them to get to as large colony as possible. And I never remove spider webs and stuff like that, because they are actually one of the most efficient killers of all types of pests. So yeah, let the spiders live.
Yeah, sure. The funny thing is there's spiders everywhere in your grow room. They just make their way inside. So yeah, if I have spiders, I let them be. I have a bunch of them in the garden. They're always there. They're beneficial. So
Yeah.
I guess you just have to be careful which spiders you.
No, I don't need to, because in Norway we don't have anyone that's poisonous.
Oh, okay,
So
great.
so we're clear. None are dangerous.
Has anyone tried lacewing indoors against aphids? You know, the thing with lacewing indoors is that they don't stay indoors, and if you keep them in an indoor environment, they won't live. So
I did release 500 of them in here. So yeah, it's perfect. But with lacewings also, as with all other things, they don't take everything. And you need to keep going with the lacewings. You need to do it I think it's every 2 or 3 weeks with those. And I just didn't continue that process. So it didn't get rid of all the problems, but it left a little bit of a mess. So so using lacewings indoors, it's not really efficient unless you have a ton of it. And yeah, they're not going to get rid of the problem.
Yeah, you know, I did hear a few times people suggest, of course, lacewings and also ladybugs. But the thing with indoors is that the environment is not natural for them, so they're not comfortable in the indoor environment. So as soon as most of the time when you release ladybugs, they're gonna be somewhere else in a matter of a few hours. They're outside of your tent. Or even in the garden, you know, you put ladybug in the garden, they'll eat what they need, and most of them will leave right away. Lacewings are better in the garden because they will stick around. So between the two, I think the lacewings for pests are better.
Yeah, and most of these predatory mites also need to have pollen accessible for them to really do their job. They need something to feed on. And if you don't have everything flowering, they won't stick around long. They will die really fast.
Yeah, when you use natural predators, they also need natural environment that they can thrive in. So that's the thing. If your environment is not suitable for them, they either die or they just go away.
Yeah.
But if you have aphids in the garden, that's a different story, because aphids in the garden is not too much of a problem, because you can actually use a water hose and spray them down, and they'll get off the leaves. Also, if you have a good, you know, like sort of like different plants around, like different varieties of things, you almost have like a small environment for other animals to come, and they'll just eat the aphids without you having to do much at all.
Yeah.
When do you start your pepper seedlings? Chris, in Norway, when do you start your pepper seedlings?
When do I start them, or when should I start them?
How about both?
So I would say if I'm growing peppers outside, there is a really large chance that they won't ripen at all. So if you're planning to grow something outside here without a greenhouse, and even with a greenhouse, I would say you should probably start them to get a really good harvest. You should start in January, I think. And then the thing about starting in January is that it is so much more work than starting in March, because you have to trim the plants down, and you have to get rid of the flowers, and you have to kind of keep it ready for takeoff without going all the way. So it's a lot of work. And the problem also with starting, like my greenhouse, it's a huge greenhouse, 500 square feet, and I need a lot of peppers. So the problem with them germinating and growing a little bit, that's okay. I can keep lights on that. But once you start to get like these plants, then it's really hard to keep 50 of those lit all the time.
Hmm.
So but yeah, start early,
Yeah.
and it's more fun because you can really get to enjoy the plant first before you get it out,
Hmm.
and you also get used to the plant, how's
Yeah.
the watering and everything, because growing things indoors is so much harder than growing them outdoors.
Hmm.
So yeah, keep the plant going, and not just throw it out there the first thing you do. Just groom it and get it to a stage where it's ready.
Hmm. So for me, because I live in a warm climate in Texas, uh, most peppers that I grow usually require 4 to 6 months to get a full production. So I basically judge based on that. Like what I want is when I take my peppers outside, I want two production in the same season. So what that means is I start my plants early inside, like say this end of December, right? So that I have January, February, March, and then by the time I take my plants outside in May and June, they'll have the first production of fruits, right? And then I'll pick all of the fruits, and then they won't have any more, and then they reproduce flowers again, like in August and September. But I have all the way to November, sometimes December, So I get two productions. So depending on how you want your peppers to produce, if you have a short season, definitely grow them inside at least 2 months, 2 to 3 months at the most. 3 months at the most, but 2 to 3 months before you take them outside. That way, it'll give them a head start, and with the short season they can produce in time before the cold weather comes. Also, when when you take them outside, make sure you go through the process of adjustment, get them acclimated to the conditions. Don't just put them outside right away, because you notice your pepper plants will burn immediately in 15 to 20 minutes if they haven't been exposed to the sun. So you have to go through that process for like at least a week, I would say. Take them out for like 15 minutes, then put them in. Then next day, take them out for 30 minutes, and then increase. And then once they're adjusted, then you put them in the garden, and then they will that prevent them from burning. Because some places they get really cold, and all of a sudden it gets really warm. So
Yeah.
and then, okay, so Angel asked, Kang, in your last video, you said that aphids are good as a good food source for some helpful bugs. Yes, that is definitely the case. Sometimes in my garden, when I have aphids, if it's not a huge problem, I don't really worry about them, because other bugs will come and eat them. Like I have wasps that would come. I have ladybugs. I have lacewings. They're all in the garden, so they would eat or destroy the aphids for me. So if I get rid of all my aphids, then I'll get rid of a lot of the beneficial bugs as well. So you kind of like weigh your options. If you have a huge aphid problem, definitely treat it. But if it's a small problem, like not of a concern, leave those for other bugs, because those are food for them. So yeah, I just look for the ants. If the ants are farming, yeah, ants can farm aphids, that's for sure. They will take the aphids, and they will spread them around. And because the ants actually farm and harvest them, ants will eat these really sweet sap that the aphids release, and the aphids will actually use that and use the ants to protect them. You ever seen a ladybug get attacked by the ants while they were trying to eat the aphids? It's really funny. What's the best place to get pepper seeds? Chris, what you have any suggestion? Place you get your
Oh, there's so many good sellers, and there's so many good varieties,
Mhm.
and I just stick with the few that really delivers, and there's no trouble with, but there's so many good ones.
Yeah, there actually are a lot of places you can get seeds with a good reputation, like the Hippie Seed Company. I think you used them before.
Yeah.
They're really nice people. I think I purchased from them before. They're great. Um, depends on what you want. Usually nowadays, I would go directly to people that the other growers,
Yeah.
like on the community, like on Facebook community. When I you get to be friends with these guys and see what they're growing, and then sometimes you can either trade with them or buy from them. And I think that is a really cool way to meet new people and also support the little guys. But as far as the big companies, they're the hippie seeds are good, and I think there's a few other places that I've used before. I don't remember. um, it's just it's easy to know who has a good reputation, because when you join the forum they will tell you.
Most definitely.
Yeah. uh, Ernest says plant nasturtium next to your peppers. And you know what? He has such a good point, because I did plant nasturtium next to a few of my plants, and the aphids all go to the nasturtium. It's something about that plants that they are attracted to instead of other. So yeah, you can do companion planting for sure. Some plants attract the pests. So plant that next to your prize plant so that the pests will eat those instead of your plants.
And marigolds also, Jack says that's also a nice one to have.
Yeah, I think marigolds deter the bugs, right? The bugs don't like them.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about marigolds is I used to grow them when I was younger, and I love marigolds because there are always mantis on them for some reason. I always see mantis on marigolds. All right, let's see. We'll go to comments. I hear planting herbs like rosemary and mint prevent pests. Yeah, that is true. Mints are one of those plants that you can actually use the leaves. You crush them up and put them in a spray bottle, and you spray your other plants, and the bugs just don't like the smell of mints for some reason. So mint is used in a lot of the pesticides or pest deterrents. So yes, definitely grow herbs in the garden, because there are some herbs that will deter pests.
Yeah.
That is for
And
sure.
it's also fun to look at the combination, because with my greenhouse I'm trying to combine something that gets rid of the pests or control it somewhat, and I also try to grow stuff that brings in pollinators. So in the daytime when the doors are open and I would like to get the bee activity and everything. So it's fun to look at those kind of companion plants that can serve different purposes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, companion plants are, if you're into gardening, that is a really cool thing to do, because not
Yeah.
only will it protect the garden, but also sometimes some companion plants, they just look great next to each other.
Yeah.
So uh, here's Kevin. Kevin asks, as a novice hydroponic gardener in South Florida, do you think I should grow tomatoes, lettuce, or peppers in a very small tent? So it's a 4x2 by 6 feet, so 48 by 24 by 60. So that's the tent that I actually started with. So a 4x2. If you grow tomatoes and you grow what is it? Interdeterminate or what? Indeterminate.
Indeterminate, yeah.
Indeterminate, meaning you would not know when they would stop growing. And if you grow those, then one tomato plant.
Oh, please, only one.
If you grow determinate tomato, then you can probably get 2 to 3 plants in small pots in a 4x2. Peppers are the same way, depending on what varieties you grow. If you trim often, like Chris did in the back, you see the air garden, you can actually keep them contained. But if you let them grow out of control, they can actually grow massive. 4x2, I would say two Chinense varieties at the most. I mean, you can trim to keep them small and get more, but yeah, 4x2, you can't grow that many. But lettuce, you can grow a ton of lettuce in a 4x2.
But also a good question is, what is the most fun to grow?
That's
What?
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
good point. What is the most fun?
Well, my feeling on that is I always tend to lean back on the peppers because it's easy to grow and it's somewhat controlled, and yeah, it's a fun thing to do, and you can do so many more things with them. You can graft, you can do all sorts of things, but there's really nothing like growing a tomato to ripen stage indoors and just picking tomatoes. Like for us, when we have freezing cold outside in the winter, and just going in, picking a red juicy tomato and eating that cherry tomato, there's really nothing compared to that. I feel like it's something special. So you should definitely try a tomato. I think it's worth the experience if you have enough lighting for it.
Mm-hmm. I did a tomato plant one time, and it was indeterminate. And by the time the plant is fully grown, because I made a mistake by putting it inside a 5 gallons, and literally that thing drank the 5 gallons every 2 to 3 days. And I mean, the pain of changing the water or adding new nutrients is just too much. So grown tomatoes, you need more space. You need reservoir space also, and because they drink like crazy.
Right. I have a follow-up question on that. Something that I've been thinking about for years, but I never really did, is trying to grow watermelons indoors. I think you did a project with a watermelon, yeah?
I did.
So tell me about that. Should I try?
With your grow space, definitely. But with my space, it's a lot smaller. So watermelon, it's a little tricky to grow in a small space. I did some in hydroponic, and also I did some in soil. The soil one is less maintenance, but with the watermelon, it requires like it needs to crawl. So it needs to crawl around. And because my space was so small, I always have to trim. So you only leave one vine. So I leave one vine, and all the side vines, I cut it.
Yeah.
And then once I have 2 fruits, I cut the main vine, and I only allow those 2 fruits to grow because, I didn't have the pot that I grew in was a 10 gallon. And I think the 10 gallon was barely enough for a watermelon. And it actually took a while, a few months to develop into a fruit. And you also have to hand pollinate.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And but I did get 2 small watermelon, and they're very tasty, but they didn't grow to full size. I need to try that again. But I want to see when you do it.
Yeah, because I have all the space, so for me, I could start it in one end and just have it grow all the way through. So it could be fun. I've been growing cucumbers here, those long Japanese cucumbers, and they are prolific indoors. And for me, they grew better indoors than outdoors, because indoors I could really, well, probably I did more with them. I really tended to them a lot more, but they grow really well. But the only thing about cucumbers indoors is that you have to be careful with watering, because it's not the normal temperatures outside controlling everything. So you will probably get a few of those cucumbers if you're growing in soil that are really bitter, like those ones that have had irregular watering. And that's just a pain to get. But I've been thinking about doing the watermelon, because I think it would be fun to grow it indoors also.
Definitely, Chris, you got to do it. It's gonna be cool, because what's also cool is, who grows watermelon in Norway?
Not too many.
It's not enough of a season, right, to grow
watermelon. It's imported. Most of all the watermelon we get is imported. But I grow them in the greenhouse, and this year I got 10, 15 decent ones, watermelons. So we had enough.
You definitely need to grow some watermelon and some cantaloupes.
Yeah. We outside this year, I think I had 8 or 10 different varieties. 2 of them were watermelon, and the rest was all sorts of melons.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm most excited about all the other types, but my family really enjoys those, especially those yellow watermelons. Those taste like honey, and yeah, they're just phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up the cucumber subject. People are really liking that. So I also grew a ton of cucumber this year, and I grew them both inside and outside. And I actually did a taste test, hydroponic versus the soily grown, same variety, same times, and it's very little difference. It's amazing. Another cool thing is that these days a lot of the cucumbers are grown hydroponically that are grown sold in stores, and you may
Yeah,
not even know it because they don't put it on the label. The
I
English,
think most.
yeah, the English cucumbers for sure. Have you seen those guys grown in hydroponic? They look perfect and they look straight and they're just beautiful, and you can't even tell. So a lot of the cucumbers these days are bred for tunnel or indoors. So if you happen to want to start growing cucumbers indoors, there's a few things I suggest. You pick a variety that are gynoecious. And gynoecious are varieties that produce only female flowers. There's no need for pollination. As soon as you see a flower, that is a cucumber. So they're different than the traditional cucumber where it needs the bugs to pollinate each other. So gynoecious are great. The Persian kind, the little kinds, they're really tasty. And a lot of varieties these days are advertised as for grown inside. Gynoecious varieties are the best ones to grow. They're really productive, they're tasty, and they don't require a lot of work.
Yeah, especially if you haven't been working a lot with pollination, because it's kind of tricky, and you have to kind of always be there when it's time for flowering.
Mhm.
Because on some of the cucumbers, they really don't open too long, and you have like a 1 day shot at getting it correct. And it's always, if you really hinge on this plant producing fruit straight away, and it's the only thing that you have, you're
Mhm.
probably going to get bored of doing the same failed experiment with pollination
Yeah,
for 10 or 15 fruits before you get something to set.
exactly.
So yeah, I agree on that, but I like the challenge. But I do feel like most of the regular traditional original cucumbers that need pollination are, in my experience, better tasting. They have more complexity to the flavor.
Mhm.
The ones that are really hybrids, that are really produced for growing fast, getting it out, growing straight, all those kind of things, they tend to be a little bit on the watery side
Yeah,
for
I agree. I agree.
my taste. But it's just something you can experience with, experiment with.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely cucumbers are really easy to grow if you're doing indoors. Even in a small space, you can actually get a good harvest of cucumbers. Because when I grew two plants inside, I get like 4 to 6 cucumbers every few days, and they keep producing for a long time.
Yeah, and also if you want to try something in the line of cucumbers and melons, what I have grown indoors in pot in soil, which is really easy and super fun, is squash.
Squash.
Growing squash, that's awesome, because they grow and they produce these beautiful fruits, and of course the flowers, the zucchini flowers, and you can pick those and eat them. If you're not into the pollinating thing, then you can just eat the flowers and just enjoy that. And I always go up here and I snack on the zucchini flowers, and it's just an amazing fast growing plant that really doesn't need any large sort of support. It's just something that grows like a bush.
How big do they get? Because there's certain squash varieties that are huge. Yeah. So
You can grow them as large as you want. You can grow them to be a full bush.
so then in a small space, like a 4 feet by 2 feet, you probably can only grow one plant, right?
You will use a smaller pot. It's the same trick that goes for everything. If
Ah,
if
nice.
you if you trim down the size of the pot and the soil, then it will grow smaller.
Hmm.
So it's the same thing. You will get smaller fruits. You will get smaller leaves, smaller everything.
Hmm.
But it's like most all other things. Then if you provide the space, it will just grow.
Yeah, that I didn't think about that because I thought about growing squash before inside, but every time I grown a squash outside, they get enormous. I was like, there's no way I can grow this inside because then it would take up all the space.
Yeah, I did two experiments on that. I did grow squash in those red solo cups
Hmm.
that I use for seed starting. I did grow a squash in that, and I also grew corn,
Oh.
long corn. And I tried to see what would happen,
Hmm.
and the squash ended up being this size, and it went all the way to flower. And then I got rid of the project, but it stayed at a decent size. And also the corn, it went to this size before it started to put out those tentacles with pollen on top.
Hmm.
So you can really just mix and match with the soil volume, I would say, for growing almost anything.
You know what, Chris? I forgot to ask. Um, do you have that fig tree we talked about yesterday?
Yeah,
I
should
think
I zoom it in?
people will be surprised to see a tree this size inside. So
Okay,
Chris
just
has
give
a
me a few
huge
seconds.
fig tree inside a grow room. If you guys ever grown trees before, I mean, this thing looks enormous, and I can't believe Chris has it inside. It's grown indoors. And is anybody in the audience into figs? So that's his fig tree right there. That's all grown inside.
I need to just find the space for myself here.
Did you have to trim that, Chris, to keep it that size?
Yeah. I've been so now with the pests that I've been having, I had to cut it all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
But it is it's a decent size. And so I trimmed off everything, and now it's starting to grow back.
Uh-huh.
But I've been cutting it several places, so it's a full tree, I would have to say. But I'm just trying to keep it as small as possible. So
Jeez, that's a huge tree. My,
it's a thick trunk.
my tree is the same size as one of the branch you have right there.
Yeah. and and to be honest, if you've ever been around all those, so here in Norway, figs doesn't grow.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go to like Greece or Italy or Spain or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you have these enormous fig trees growing naturally,
Mm-hmm.
and in the evenings you will get that fig tree scent. That's just the fills the aroma of the air.
Wow.
And also here, when I come up here and the lights have dimmed down in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
the same kind of, at least when it's fully foliaged,
Mm-hmm.
the same kind of southern Italy feeling, or
Really?
Greece is just flowing in the air. It's
So,
like growing the citrus. So you will get the
so the leaves, do you have
flowering
to
stage.
smell the leaves? I didn't notice that.
Oh, it smells beautiful. Oh, I just love it. It has a
Wow.
certain distinct smell. So if you walk around in a village and you get that smell, you can be positive that's a fig tree. So yeah, it's fun to
Sir
see those.
Wobble suggests you grow vanilla tree.
Hmm?
So Sir Wobble said you should grow vanilla in your grow room.
Vanilla, yeah. I have to say I actually tried to grow that. Didn't germinate. So yeah, maybe I should try it again.
So Chris, for that huge tree, once they start to produce, how many figs do you get from it at a time? Can you get figs?
It all depends because I have a problem, and that's roof or ceiling height. So I need to prune it down. So
Oh.
the fig would rather like to put out something
Mhm.
like this of
Mhm.
a branch,
Mhm.
and then produce figs all the way. But I need to cut it down so it's reduced. But I would say I'm not sure what I got from the last harvest, but it was. I didn't count because I'm always up here just picking and eating whenever it's it's something ready. But
Yeah.
it's a decent amount.
Is there a way where you can actually, let the branch grow and use a rope to like bend it down
Yeah,
and train
sure,
it?
for sure.
You can train it, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm planning. So this one, is one of the few things that didn't grow from seed. So this was just something that I got, and it was the huge branches was already there. So I just trimmed it down, and it's starting to branch out lower. But what I'm going to do is tie these down when they get a little bit older and a little bit more branched out, and I will try to get a kind of a canopy.
Yeah, that would be really cool, because then you get more figs out of those, right?
Yeah. The problem is that you will need 4 to 6 grow lamps for one tree, and so it's kind of a expensive project, but it's it's a fun one. It's the same with my banana. You know, I had the banana that was growing to the ceiling, and it was, I don't know, it was 6, 7, 8. It was about 8 or 10 feet in diameter, so it was huge, and it just took up all my grow lights, because there's so much needed to keep that thing going once it gets to a certain size.
Yeah, I mean, it does cost a lot, but I mean, the joy and being able to grow a fig in Norway is probably like, you know, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, and I also have one, as I mentioned before, in the greenhouse outside. It's a Chicago hardy fig, and that has survived actually one winter here. I'm keeping it heated with my geothermal greenhouse. So yeah, I hope it survived one more year, and hopefully I will get a ton of figs next year outside. That's just awesome.
Ernest made a joke. It's quite funny. It made me chuckle. It seems like you got it all figured out.
Well, I can tell you I don't.
So yeah, go back up on top. People mentioned that, you know, I talked about Armenian cucumbers all the time. Yes, if you've grown Armenian cucumbers, you're going to enjoy it. Just know that they do require pollination. And also, if you research them more, Armenian cucumbers are actually not cucumbers, they're melons. But, you know, they taste like a cucumbers, and it's just an amazing variety to grow in the garden. They produce massive cucumbers that look like a serpent. I think in some places they call them serpent cucumber, because they do look like a serpent. It's amazing. So yeah, if you've grown those, they're great. Vaughn asks, what other fruit trees are possible indoors?
Anything.
I think anything, right? If you can make it small enough to fit in the room and provide the lights, the possibilities are limitless.
So everything in the citrus category is something that I've been growing. Oranges and lemons and yeah, everything, and they produce fruits nicely, and that's not a problem. I currently have an Hawaiian guava. It's supposed to take 6 years before it sets flowers, but I'm gonna get there, and I'm gonna do it hydroponically. But that's also something that's possible. Yeah, but you can grow mango, you can grow avocados, you can grow anything.
So speaking of fruit trees, you know, I am growing a Jabuti kaba tree, and it is on its I think second or third years. I think it's 3 years old now. I mean, the tree is supposed to produce fruit in 5 to 8 years. So
that's what I'm hoping, but I don't tell people that.
I have it to, because I have it inside a 10, 15 gallon, I think 15 gallon pot. So I had to trim it every season, and then I have to take it inside in the winter and then back out in the summer. And so, you know, it's inside my garage right now. So hopefully one of these days it'll pay off, because that is a lot of work.
Yeah, that's the thing about those types of projects, like the guava I have. I've already spent 2 or 3 years on that, and it's those kind of things that it's not something you can buy from money. It's just a lot of work. Yeah, and I've been when I started gardening, I always wanted to grow something that gave me something to eat within 3 weeks. And then it sort of progressed into me growing something that was fun, and different types of plants that necessarily didn't produce something you could eat, but something that was fun. And now I would have to say I'm really playing with the idea of doing bonsai, because there's something so nice about doing that. And the thing that really motivates me into thinking that's something for me is that when I decided to shut down the greenhouse or the grow room, get rid of everything and just start all over, that was the most exciting I've had in my garden for a long time. And that's just because you can really start all over again and enjoy the journey of something growing. And that's something with bonsai that I really enjoy. So I've been 3D printing a few pots, and I have some succulents going now that are a couple of years old, and it's something fun to work with. So yeah.
I did see that succulent project that you did. You did a video on it. It looks really cool. Where you have a pot and you put all these different things in there.
Yeah. That was a display thing. But I have like my I'm trying to grow an aloe as a bonsai. So this one is I'm picking off leaves and trying to grow it on a stick, and eventually I will turn it into a bonsai. So yeah, there's a few things. I also have started. I printed my pot, and I started this one from just one single leaf. Wow. So it's starting to thicken up and looking nice. So it's those kind of projects that are fun to combine with 3D printing.
Like a mini tree. Actually, speaking of bonsai, I saw this really cool jade plant where they somehow prune it, and it looks like a tree. It looks like a little tree. And I tried doing that. It didn't work. My jade just goes out of control. So I guess I need to. That's a lot for me to learn.
Yeah, the bonsai, it's just amazing. I feel like that's like the master degree or the doctorate because then you really need to understand what's going on, because what we're doing most of the time, it's dumb luck when it works. But with bonsai, you really only have a chance, one chance. You can lose something that's 20 years old and you've been working on for 10 years.
That is horrible to do.
Yeah, but it's horrible. But then again, it's something to really motivate and to keep you motivated going forward, because you need to stay motivated on the same plant for 20, 30, 40 years. And there has to be something that motivates that process.
Yeah. Of course, in things that may, sometimes, it seems like it's not possible to do. It seems like it makes you want to do it to see if you can do it.
Yeah.
So, lately, or the past year or so, I love growing things in little systems and make it produce a ton of stuff. So let me show you one thing that I'm doing. I showed this on the last video. This is a tropical herb, and this is called culantro. Culantros are, they're weed in some places because they grow everywhere. But in places like in the cold area, they don't grow, and you can buy these in grocery store, and they can be very expensive, like a few bucks for like just a few leaves. And
never heard of it.
In salsa and all these other things. And
wow.
I struggled to grow these in the beginning in hydroponic, and I was like, man, how come they don't grow? And I keep trying, and I finally got it figured out. Look at these.
Wow. That looks amazing.
Culantro.
Wow.
And I also found out how to prune these to keep them producing leaves, because if once they produce the seed pods, they stop growing the leaves, and they become these little weird things. The seeds come out everywhere, and it becomes massive. The small plant like this becomes this big when they start to produce seeds. So when you cut the seeds out, they keep producing leaves. So I've been using this for a few months already. It's crazy.
I need to get some seeds for that. That looks amazing. What does it taste like? Does it taste something like cilantro or?
It's sort of. It has this herbal taste, a little bit like cilantro, but much stronger.
Yeah. Where is it native?
It's native in South America, and also in Southeast Asia, people grow them everywhere, and they put it in everything. So
Wow.
it's a very interesting herb, and a lot of people don't know about it because it's a weed.
Yeah, I've heard about it, but I never seen it grown. So yeah, cool. Does it grow
Yeah.
fast?
They require a little shade. They love the heat, but they do require a little shade and moisture.
So
And the
perfect
roots,
for
the roots
indoors.
are very shallow, so if the condition dry up too quick, they just won't grow that well.
Yeah.
So they love to be under a shaded area, but they do require some sun, just some shades, but a lot of moisture. And they grow really well in South America in climate, and they can get very expensive. I have a bunch of seeds I can send you. I
Yeah,
harvested
well,
from
I'm gonna need to try
last
that.
season.
Yeah.
Um, Somebody, Andre, asked, do you have a video on Culantro hydro setup? Yes, I actually have a Culantro setup in hydroponic, the mini system that I did a while back, and that was when I first started learning how to grow them. They grow really slow in the beginning, but after like a month or so, they started to take off and leaves everywhere. So it's one of these herbs that require a lot of patience. But once you successfully grow culantro, you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, these things are just amazing. And yeah,
Yeah.
we would love you to grow it in Norway because I don't think they exist there.
No, no, no. All these types of herbs are rare. I would
Hmm.
have to say. And where we live, we just had this discussion the other day. The only fresh peppers that are available to us in the region we live
Hmm.
is cayenne peppers, red cayenne peppers. That's the only thing we can get in this whole area. So we are kind of stuck to growing our own things,
Hmm.
and I try to grow different things that we can use in cooking
Hmm.
that are really hard to get a hold of.
Hmm.
So, but they're also hard to grow, like ginger or stuff
Yeah,
like that. But
yeah.
yeah, it's fun to have those kind of things. The one thing that I would love to try, and I think we had a discussion about that earlier one time, is true wasabi. That would
Oh
be
yes,
awesome
yes,
to try to grow,
yeah.
to see if you can get a wasabi culture going.
Yeah, I did a bunch of reading on wasabi because it was so interesting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times when you go to sushi places and they're like, "Hey, can you ask for wasabi?" Those are all fake wasabi. They're just horseradish that it
Yeah.
has the green color. The
Yeah.
real wasabi is they don't make it for you pre-made, because as soon as you kind of scrub it off to get the essence out, within hours the flavor would disappear.
Oh.
So a lot of the restaurants, like the sushi places, when you get real wasabi, they're really expensive, and they do it for you right then. Because if you
Wow.
don't do it right away, the flavor will go away. So it's no longer the true essence of wasabi that the experience. So they also require like a certain climate and running water. So they
Yeah.
need a lot of moisture and running water. So they're very hard to grow. And
Yeah.
so I did a lot of reading, and I was like, can I grow that here? But even to buy a live wasabi plants or seed, whatever, it costs like $20, and then another $20 to ship it.
Yeah,
So
and that's what I found from my research on also, is that you don't start from a seed, you start from a plant,
yes,
and
yes,
you would have to get it shipped. And the problem for me is that I live so far away from anything that
yeah.
it's just not something that I was, even if I wanted to pay for it, I wouldn't be able to get it.
Hmm.
But I was thinking that it could be fun indoors, because I did grow rice, and
Hmm.
that works
Oh wow.
perfect indoors. So rice is an easy plant to grow, but
Yeah.
it's easy for the pests. They really enjoy rice. So if you have a little bit of a problem with pests, don't start with the rice. It will only get worse.
Okay, okay, Chris. So your challenge is to grow wasabi and show us.
Yeah, that would be awesome. If I ever get my hands on a wasabi plant, then I
Yeah.
would definitely try that, because
Oh man, that would
that's
be
on my
amazing.
bucket list.
Yeah, definitely. That would be something I would tune in and wait for your release, because I have not seen outside of people that actually do farming for wasabi.
Yeah.
Just hobby gardener doing wasabi. I have not seen it.
Yeah, me neither.
So,
And so I think we did some Googling, both of us, at almost the same time, but
yeah,
nothing came up unless it was a professional
yeah,
setup.
yeah.
And that involves a whole lot of things with flushing the system, and because you need to get it dry at one stage, and you need to flood it
Mhm,
for a period, and you need to do
mhm,
all sorts of crazy things. But it
mhm.
would be fun to see that get into fruition.
Yeah, and it has to be the perfect climate. There's temperature wise, moisture. There needs to be shade because these guys don't like full sun all the time, beating down on them. So I guess that's why they're so priced, because they're so hard to grow. So
Yeah,
they can get really expensive.
yeah. Unicorn of gardening. Homestead Aquarius. That's the real thing. Yeah, it's a unicorn of gardening. Nobody is ever. If you ask people, nobody. No, that sounds cool, but I've never seen it grow.
Yeah, so that's the next year challenge for Chris. Do
Yeah.
the wasabi grow, and we're gonna follow along. So make sure you guys subscribe to Chris to see the wasabi coming up.
Hopefully, I will get bananas in here before I get wasabi. But
Hey, I have been waiting for your banana plant since you first showed it.
yeah, yeah.
That's really
The
cool.
problem was I grew a variety that was really not suited for. I grew a variety called the dwarf Cavendish,
Uh-huh.
which is not exactly a dwarf when you grow it inside. So that one was just getting too tall, and I had to cut it down because it touched the ceiling, and there's no way to go from there.
Hmm.
And then I started one that's a super dwarf, and that's the perfect variety for me. So I did grow it. I did get rid of the plant now because of my pest situation,
Hmm.
but it's not a problem because it takes 1 year and the banana is full size again.
Hmm.
And I cut it down. I used a hand saw, and it was this thick,
Hmm.
the trunk. So yeah, I would say there's a really good chance that I will be able to grow from a cutting to a full banana ripen on a plant indoors.
That would be so cool. When I grew up with my grandfather on the farm in our country, we always have bananas. They grow
Yeah.
everywhere. And the funny thing is, banana has so many uses as food ways. You don't just eat the banana fruit. Um, so each season, actually, it's the whole season. We don't have winter. So banana would produce these bulbs, right? And the bulbs would have these flaps. It covers the inside flowers,
The
and the
flower.
yeah, the flaps would fold back, and that's how it gets pollinated. And then the flowering bulbs would just become banana, but not all of the no, not the entire bulb will become banana. So what we
Hmm.
do is we cut the parts that are no longer becoming little bananas. Then you use those as a lettuce. I mean, not lettuce, but a salad. You can eat.
Wow.
Yeah, the purple.
What's the taste like?
It has a little bit of a stringent taste, but it's very watery and has a different texture. It's kind of crunchy and really really strange. But
Wow.
we use it in salads and stuff like that. And sometimes we make soups, the certain type of soup, and the ingredients. You cut the bananas, you shred them into little strings, and those get put into the soup as like a like a filler.
Yeah.
So they're
Wow.
really cool. So you can eat a lot of parts of it, and also the bananas, the stalk, the young stalk. Sometimes because banana they multiply like crazy, so you have to trim them to keep them in control. And
Yeah.
sometimes we use the little young stalks and we chop them up in little pieces and we feed them to the pigs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's part of the diet. So it's really cool. Banana has a lot of uses.
Yeah, I've been actually giving some of my cuttings to my sister who has chickens, and they also enjoy the bananas. So yeah, that's cool. And also, of course, the leaves. We use it for. We could use it on the grill, or we could use it to
To wrap
pack the
things.
food. Yeah, to
Yeah.
wrap the food. So
Wrap stuff is really cool.
yeah,
That is, in other countries, banana is a really important plant
yeah,
because you use it, of course, as food, and the leaves used as wrapped, and also, some places use them as plates. You put them
yeah,
as
yeah,
for your food. You put the food on top, and that's how you use it. So
yeah.
they're really important type of plants all over the world. So it's crazy that you try to grow it inside.
Yeah, if there's only one thing left behind me, is that I'm going to make a banana grow to fruit and and to ripeness. And also, it's the best feeling of it. It's one of those things that give me the most tropical feeling in the grow room, is going up here when you need to chop off one of the lower leaves, and just the smell of fresh banana is it smells like when you get unripe banana, those really green ones,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you pull it open, and you get that strong scent of banana.
yeah.
It is phenomenal to grow something like that here in Norway, and to just for the smell of it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And also when I was younger, we grow a certain type of banana that we don't let them ripen up. We eat them as young bananas, and it tastes like potato.
Yeah,
It's really cool. So
yeah.
it's
But there's so many fun things. Like, for instance, when you grow radishes outside,
Mhm.
I've been talking to some friends who are working with kind of like a rescue package for bad times. So they provide seeds for people to grow their own garden at home. All the seeds that will provide you with the nutrients that you need. And also, one of the things that is left behind is, like, when you grow radishes, let them go to seed. And if they go to seed, you eat the pods. And the pods are just as good as the radishes, but you get so much more from one radish.
That's
And that's,
very true. Yes.
yeah, that's one of the things that are fun. And also with my guava tree, the huge guava tree, I'm growing it because I one day would hopefully get it to flower, and to see and smell what that's like. But also, every time I prune, I could take the leaves, dry them up, and use them as tea. And that's one of those things that you really only learn about when you look into the culture and the history behind one of the things that you grow. And I've been speaking with people that are native to Hawaii, where this plant originates, and they say, "Don't throw it away, please don't throw it away. It's so much good use."
Yeah.
Like you said with the aloe, also, there's so many uses for almost anything.
Yeah.
So it's fun to experiment with those kind of things, and to just read up on that, because for me, living here in Norway, I have no idea about anything of that. It's just something that I need to invest my time into.
Yeah, those are definitely something very, very interesting, because you mentioned radish. So, I grow a ton of radish, and most of the times when I grow radish, I don't wait for the bulbs to form. I eat the leaves first.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everyone survives until the bulb. Yeah.
So I eat all the leaves. And then you mentioned that you can eat the pods, right?
Yeah.
So there is a type of radish. I'm actually growing it right now, and once they're ready, I'm going to show you. This type of radish is grown for the pods. It doesn't produce bulbs. So
Wow.
it's called rat-tailed radish. If you guys could look it up in the audience, it's called rat-tailed radish. And this
Yeah.
is the varieties that you grow for the pods, because that's all they produce. They don't produce bulbs. They only produce pods, and the pod tastes just like radish, but not as spicy. A
Yeah.
little
They're mild
down,
version. Yeah.
but they're really cool. It looks exactly like a radish pod, a little bigger, like like around 6 to a foot of, no longer than a foot for sure. And you eat the pods. You don't eat anything else. You just eat the pods, and they produce so many pods. It's just amazing. One plant, and you will be sick of radish for a long time.
Yeah, but that's something that most people aren't aware of. Those kind of second uses. And also, I've been doing the same with arugula. I've been growing that for so many years. I think that was almost the first thing I started growing. And also the seed pods and the seeds, the fresh seeds in arugula. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
It tastes really nice.
Right.
So there's so many things that you can do with stuff like that. And I also, you mentioned that I should probably do something with the nature around, looking at it and see about that thing. And what I wanted to do, and I'm actually think I'm gonna try to get a course locally here for edible flowers and stuff like that in the nature. And it's really interesting because there's so many things out there that you have always, when you grow up, you just take it for granted. And there's so many good uses.
Yeah, for sure. Especially where you are, because you have the mountainside, and you have the lake nearby, and you may have these wild edibles and maybe mushrooms that you didn't know existed or could be edible.
We pick mushrooms all the time. So we have a ton of mushrooms all around the area. So every year is mushroom time and berries time. So we have blueberries, and we have strawberries, and every raspberries. Everything is growing wild here. So yeah, it's nice.
See, now you make me want to see more of the sceneries that you have.
Yeah, as I say, I just take it for granted because this is where I grew up. And for me, where you live is just as exotic, because for me, like the perfect, I always tell my wife, when we grow old, I want to move to Arizona in the desert without water. That's kind of like my dream.
Of where you are.
Yeah, but that's the fun thing about it, because for everyone else, whatever you have is exotic. Like for me, bananas, that's like the most exotic thing that I could ever think of. When my dad grew up, he told me that what he got for Christmas was bananas and oranges. Wow. Because that was the most exotic thing that you could ever get your hands on. So that was once a year. And for many other people growing up in other countries, that was probably the thing that they lived on and ate every single day. So it's those kind of different perspective.
That is true, because I think you made a good point, because when I live in Vietnam, right? We have, that country is tropical, so you have probably all the tropical fruits that we here in the US would just dream about being able to grow in the backyard. But when you were there, you take it for granted. And what I wanted was an American apple, because we didn't have it there.
Yeah, that's the thing. So
exotic.
It's strange how that works, the exotic of it.
Yeah, but definitely, I would love to see the drone that you're talking about growing. Your drone, and going in the wild and doing all that stuff. And mushrooms.
Already started filming.
Yeah, film the mushroom, because I'm always been fascinated by mushrooms. They're just amazing. Type of, what are they? Fungi plants? Fungi.
Yeah. Yeah. Mycelium.
Oh wow, we have Karen. Karen, hi. I think I've seen a bunch of Karen's comments on my videos. Thank you, Karen, for tuning in.
She mentions trying to eat a green banana boiled and salted. Yeah, I've actually read about that and seen some videos about that, and that's really interesting. And the same thing is with tomatoes and peppers and everything. People always think that things should be ripened, but there's so many use cases for things that you haven't really looked into. If there is some sort of process you can do with those things. And that would be awesome to try with the green bananas. I'm most certainly going to experiment the heck out of it if I ever get to the stage.
Yeah, I do like green tomatoes. I think they have a really good texture, and it's also very tangy. So I do enjoy it. I love green tomatoes. Oh, you mentioned arugula, Chris. So I did a bunch of videos on arugula on my channel, and that is probably one of my all-time favorite plants to grow, because as you said, you eat the leaves, right? And then when the arugula get into the summertime, they start producing pods. You eat those seed pods, and they taste amazing. They're really spicy. And as soon as you cut the pods, more pods will form, and more pods will form. So you can eat arugula for leaves and arugula for flowers.
Yeah.
And then finally you can harvest the leaves the seeds to.
I need to pluck arugula all over my yard
Yeah.
every single year.
I grow a ton of arugula. They're still alive right now because our temperatures are really nice, and every day when I need greens, I just go to the backyard and pick some and eat them. So it's
Yeah.
great to have a yard.
And it's also one of those plants that really can be easily grown indoors in the wintertime. Arugula it's really fast growing and doesn't require much attention at all. So it's nice.
Run Boy asked if I'm interested in running a side-by-side lights comparison for lettuce. Um, I would be interested, but right now, it's towards the end of the year, so there's holiday coming up, and there's a lot of things, so I may not have time to do that. But maybe we should connect sometime soon and see. And I'm really interested in seeing what kind of light setup you have. All right, let's see. Arugula is my favorite. Yeah, getting clean on the prairie.
But it truly is the best. The peppery taste of arugula it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and fresh arugulas are just amazing because it has this pungent, and then depending on what variety you grow, some are spicier than others. And also you can grow arugula as microgreens, which I do a lot. And they are super spicy as baby plants. I mean, they taste like you're eating a peppercorn.
So what I'm growing, I've tried so many different varieties of arugula, but now I'm only growing wild arugula, and those are really slim leaves, and they're more pointy and thinner and everything, and they are so much more spicy, and that's something that I really enjoy. And there's so many different varieties of everything, like spinach and stuff like that. It's so many. And also what I have been trying to grow more, and I'm actually gonna try. I'm just gonna, don't get sick, I'm gonna turn the camera. So I have this box that I made a couple of years ago, and this is gonna be my winter greens garden. So I'm gonna start that with seeds soon. So it's gonna be arugula and all those types of different salads that we want to grow. And I also want to try to see if I can grow radishes and beets. That would be awesome, because if I don't get any of the beets or radishes, I could always eat the greens because they're perfect. But that would be so much fun, and I've really gotten interested in growing beets. It just sounds boring, but there's something nice about that. Grilled beets, you put it in the oven for an hour and it just melts on your tongue. It's phenomenal.
I think beets will do well in your grow room because beets do prefer a cooler climate.
Yeah.
So, and I did a garden tour before, and I showed people my beet plant. I have one beet plant that is going on to be 3 years old.
Wow.
It is amazing. It looked like a tree. And because I don't grow the beets to eat the bulbs, I eat the leaves.
The greens,
So
yeah.
I grow beets, like a bunch of them in a row like this in my raised bed, and when they produce the little leaves, I just cut them and eat them, and they do taste very much like the bulbs, but they're not as earthy, and because the bulb has a little spice to it too. So I grow them to eat the leaves, and then I left that one plant. It's about to be 3 year old coming up. It's crazy. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And Chris, another thing with the radish, like if you grow these daikon radish or these other type of radish, they produce a lot of seeds, but also they fix your nitrogen in your soil.
Yeah.
They're a great type of plant to just grow as cover crops. Just let them grow. They'll fix the soil for you.
Yeah.
So they're just great plants overall.
Yeah.
For many.
And also my wife's favorites is pak choy and bok choy. So we grow a lot of that in springtime, and I also have been growing it indoors. And that's also one that because outdoors it tends to bolt really fast in the hard sun.
Yeah.
But indoors, even under grow lights, strong
Mhm.
grow lights, and it's warm in here. It's really warm in this grow room, but
Mhm.
still they don't bolt. So I don't know how or why, but it seems like that's something that's also easy to grow indoors.
Yeah.
And also you are growing tatsoi microgreens a lot, I think.
Yes, I grow tatsoi, pak choi, yu choi. There's a bunch of these other different.
Yeah.
You know,
So
the,
many
the
choices.
cool thing is, so recently I ran out of these seeds to grow. I think I misplaced them somewhere. So what I did is I have access to my local grocery store that sells a lot of Asian greens. So all I do is I go to the grocery store, I buy the plants that they put in a package, and I root them, and then in a few months they have
Yeah.
seeds. You can grow the seeds out. Oh,
Yeah.
our friend is here. Hang, do that girl. She's one of the regular, and good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
And she's never tasted arugula.
Arugula is the best.
Yeah, that's a staple.
It's a must. It's a must. Oh, Ashley, you just order a rat tail radish. I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed. But the thing with rat tail is that uh, it does need space. They grow like this. They sprawl out like this. Once they start produce pods, it'll take a huge. You need a big pot, or you put it in a raised bed. It'll take up half of it. But they're really easy to grow. They grow really fast, and then the seed pods you can eat them whenever. And as you pick them, they keep growing. They keep growing, and so they're just fantastic plants to grow.
So getting clean on the prairies, is that, yeah? Just received beets, kohlrabi, and bok choy seeds in the mail today. Wow, that's gonna be a beautiful garden. The fun thing about that kind of garden is that you really need to focus on not eating everything before it's finished. It's
Yeah.
one of those rock garden.
You think kohlrabi? Kohlrabis are just fantastic plant. They're really strange. They're like similar to beets, but they're just really cool. So what I do is I grow kohlrabi as microgreens, and I usually take one or two of the little microgreens and I put them in the garden. They'll grow into a big kohlrabi and
Yeah.
a real plant. So many people don't know, or maybe didn't know, that microgreens are just baby plants. They're nothing different than the regular plant. They're just baby plants of the same plants. So you can take the little microgreen, put them in your garden. They will grow into the big plant. So
Yeah.
the seeds are the same. They're not different.
One of my really favorite microgreens that so many people don't know is actually carrots.
Carrots.
That is beautiful. Those tender little leaves, they taste like a green carrot, or a carrot greens, of course. Well, it tastes like a salad, but like a carrot, and that is just beautiful also. So many people are outside thinning their carrots early in the spring, and they throw it out, and they don't realize that the whole plant is edible, and it is really good.
Yeah. Andre asked if Culantro is Ngo Gai. Yes, it is. It's the exact same thing. It's just Ngo Gai is a Vietnamese name for it.
Ah.
Andre is asking. So yes, it is, Andre. They're the exact same thing. It's just a different name. But yeah, carrots. Yeah, you mentioned you can eat the leaves of the carrots. That's interesting. There's other greens that people grow as microgreens that you don't eat as when they're in the field. So there's this thing called what was it? Clovers. You ever
Yeah.
seen clovers? So people grow clovers as microgreens, and they'll eat those. And there's a bunch of other stuff that you can grow as microgreens, and they taste pretty good. Like peas,
Yeah.
you can eat peas as microgreens.
Yeah.
Um,
Almost everything can be eaten as a microgreen. Almost.
almost not. You make sure you do your research because if you can't
Of
eat
course, but the thing is that so many of the regular things that we know about can be eaten as a microgreen. But of
sunflowers.
course,
Nobody eats sunflowers as a mature plants, but they eat sunflowers as a baby plants.
yeah, Yeah,
That's one of the most interesting.
yeah. Any advice for bok choy? Daydreamer asked. Well, to grow that for baby bok choy, in my experience, just don't let it bolt. So with that, is just keep it away from the really hot sun. Try to grow it in spring and in autumn. And it when you think that this is probably not a good time to grow anything, the bok choy seems to just like it. In my experience.
Runboy mentioned that microgreen seems to be very unsustainable. Yes, it could be because you take a whole ton of seeds and grow into baby plants just to eat them, and people do that because the baby plants are packed with nutrients. But another thing is it's sustainable. It could be sustainable because, for example, arugula, one plant can produce 100 seeds or maybe 200 seeds, right? So you grow like a few plants, or lettuce, for example, one lettuce plant can produce 5,000 seeds. So you let one plant go to seed, and now it would be sustainable. So it really depends on what plants you want to grow as microgreens, because most, even radish. Oh my God, radish, they can produce so many seeds, and
Yeah.
pak choy, lettuce, and all of these greens. One plant produce a gazillion seeds, so it may look unsustainable, but really, if you allow one plant to go to seed, you get a million seeds.
So I think that the problem we are facing is not the number of seeds, but it's the place to put it.
Yeah.
And I think that using unsustainable is the wrong word in that context. I think it's more about wastefulness. When you think about it, you could get so much more out of it if you think about it that way. But also, growing microgreens is you are mostly using the nutrients already inside the seed to grow it. So you need to use less fertilizer. You don't need to use fertilizer at all, in matter of fact. And that way you can grow more efficient. You can get more nutrients out of nutrients spent for it. So it's a balancing game, but I think there's room for everything.
But another thing I'll add to that is I grow lettuce every season, right? And when I harvest lettuce seeds, there is no way I can use up all the seeds in 20 years, right?
No.
So instead of trashing all of the seeds or just cutting the plants and not using just trash the seeds, I harvest the seeds so that I can grow microgreens in the wintertime. And, then I can use a lot of the stuff that I may throw away. So that makes more sense for me. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of people do that too, because how many plants can you grow a season? Not that many, right? But one plant can produce so many seeds that it could last you 20 years if you can store it right. So
Yeah.
extra seeds that you're not going to use, you can actually grow microgreens, and then that way you don't waste anything.
Yeah, and also in my case, and probably a lot of your cases, I've been using my own harvested seeds as microgreens because I just have too much. Like the arugula, I have way too much. It's just something that they will just go bad if you save them year after year. So why not just use them as microgreens?
Yeah.
They're more tender, they're stronger, and they're more nutritional. So yeah, I don't see why not.
Ashley asks, how long does it take for bok choy to go to seed?
I don't know.
For me, when I grow the bok choy, pak choy, or tat soy, or whatever, it really depends on the condition also. Because if you want them to produce seeds quickly, just grow them towards the summer months, because the heat will make them bolt very fast.
Yeah.
If you want to slow down the bolting process, you start them in the cooler months, so you have a lot of greens before you have the seeds. And also, these are type of greens that you can cut and come again. So what that does is you cut the leaves as you need them and leave them to grow more. And once you're ready for them to produce seeds, then allow them to produce seeds. That way you have, your lettuce or your greens to use, while you also have your seeds to gather later. So I would say normally, um, it'll take around 45 days for the plants to grow to a full head of pak choi. If you grow it in hydroponic, it may be 30 days. So around 60 days, they may start to flower, or even earlier than that,
Yeah,
depending.
much sooner, much sooner. Mine are starting to flower within the month easily. If you grow them in, so what I have been doing, experimenting with it in a greenhouse, it gets super boiling hot in the summertime,
Uh-huh.
in daytime, and really cold at night.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to just, they just take off. They even flower before they form. So they will just put out a couple, 3 leaves, and then they will start to send up the stock. So to get them to the yellow flowers, it is really fast if you if you grow them the wrong way.
Yeah, and so the weather condition does affect how they produce the seeds quickly or not, and they do prefer a little cooler months. So try to time that out and grow them in the cooler months. But bok choys are really easy, and they are great for hydroponic. They're just amazing.
Yeah.
James, thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you like bok choy, also try tatsoi. Tatsois are they have similar growing habit. They look a little bit different. The leaves are smaller, more like spinach, but you get a ton of little leaves. They're just, and they produce like crazy. And I think they um, they both slower than pak choi. I think because when I grow them, I mean they just produce so many leaves, and when I grow them in hydroponic, man, they get so massive, just huge.
Yeah. I've only grown tatsoi as microgreens. I have a huge bag of it, so I really enjoy the microgreen stage of that. It's just amazing.
Brad is here. Hey, Brad, thanks for joining us, buddy. Yeah, if anybody's looking for grow lights, there's the man right here you can talk to. Brad is growing lemons right now in his grow tent.
Wow, lemons! It's so much fun, and we're talking about all the smells of the indoor garden. It's just going in and just rubbing the leaves. It's just beautiful to get the citrusy smell, and all the different limes and lemons and all the different citrus has different smells, and that's interesting because they are so much alike, but they're still so far apart. And what is it called? I don't remember, but I've been growing it for years and using it in cooking. Those kaffir lime.
Oh yeah, those kefir limes. Those
Yeah, just for the leaves.
Yeah,
that is just one of the best tastes in the Thai cooking that we're doing. It's so nice.
Those are great plants to grow, but they die in the winter. So if you have a cold climate that freeze, you have to take them inside. But they're great type of lime. They also produce little fruits.
Yeah.
But people don't really use that. They just use the leaves.
Yeah, but that's also one of the things that if you have trouble growing things indoors because of lighting or stuff like that, kaffir lime is perfect because you only use the leaves, or mainly use the leaves. And also, if you want to grow something that you can start to use from earlier, because if you're growing a lemon from seed, it's going to take probably years before you have something.
Yeah.
But something that you can use the leaves for, and it's easier.
Yeah. So tatsoi is not a mustard. I think there is a tatsoi that call mustard tatsoi. It's different. Tatsois are I think it's not a mustard because it doesn't have that spicy flavor. They're kind of sweet, actually. What kind of fertilizer water is good for the roots? You know, if you're asking about my garden, I usually don't use fertilizer, and when I do, I use the fish fertilizer. These Alaskan fish fertilizer. It smells so bad, but it's so good for the plants, and you don't need a lot of them. You just mix them with water and then just feed it to your plants. They're great for vegetables, and uh, and I also make a lot of my own compost from leftover stuff that I don't use. So I usually in the garden I go mostly organic, but of course when I do hydroponic, it's just whatever the nutrients that I use. Yes,
I,
cilantro
I
can be grown hydroponically. Cilantro actually does really well in hydroponic.
I actually use the fish fertilizer indoors here in the grow room, and it's quite a stench. But
Yeah.
in my experience, whatever smells the worst is the best. It, it's always the thing when you're using something that, oh, without odor or whatever, that's okay, but it's just bath water. It's really nothing to
Yeah.
write home about. But the real strong fish fertilizer,
Hmm.
that's perfect for the plants. But it
Yeah.
stinks. So it's nice to have it in a separate room.
You know, you know what my parents used to also do. So they have, you know, shrimps, right? Shrimp have shells, and
Yeah,
when they peel the shrimp shells, they never throw those away. They just
that's
go dig a
cool.
hole in the garden and just put the shells in there. And
Yeah,
you know, and fish too. You know, like fish bones, fish heads. That's
yeah.
what they used to do. They just bury in the garden, and those become fertilizer, and it gives calcium to your plants. So it's actually pretty neat, and I do that too. So they're pretty cool.
Yeah, but if you have an outdoor warm compost like we have here for
Mhm.
food scraps and stuff like that, there is really nothing that sets off the compost like shrimp,
Really,
shrimp shells and
didn't
fish
know
also. It then just explodes and it gets glowing hot. So there probably is something on that or about that. That's correct.
that. Yeah, I mean, I guess not, you know, naturally. You know, I was watching this documentary on salmon, right? And this it is so interesting. I forgot what the name of the documentary was, but salmon has a natural cycle that they go through, right? They'll swim up to the mountain, and they would lay the eggs, and then the salmon would die, right? And then salmon get washed up onto the forest floors, and then the dead salmon would feed all of the everything that's on the forest floor, and the forest stays healthy, and that goes on for generations, right? And I was like, wow, you know, that's really neat, you know, because there's a cycle through everything that's natural. So it's just
Yeah,
amazing. And then, you know, of course, the bears would eat the salmon, and then the bears would only eat parts of the salmon, and they'll toss the rest away back into the forest. And then the
yeah.
bees and little plants or little bugs or whatever would eat the leftover. And then that's how the forests feed themselves. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah. It just has a way to work it out. If we don't get involved, it just seems to work.
Yeah, Brad, I think we're really interested to see more of your newest line, the HH series. Those are amazing. And I actually I've used it. Brad sent me a light, and I have been using it for a while. So if you guys search my channel, you will see the HH 200 it's made by Brad's company. And the thing with that HH 200 is that it has this really long ballast, so the ballast is the power source is not stuck to the light, because that part can get hot sometimes. So what I do is I take that part and I put it outside the tent, because the line is really long, and it's a really great idea that he did that, because sometimes in the summer times my garage can get up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and with the power supply on top of the lights and all that stuff, it can get really hot. So I take the power supply and I put it outside the tent so the heat goes somewhere else. So that is a great feature, Brett. I do like that a lot. I think Chris, I think my baby is about to wake up. Um,
Yeah.
so I may have to end this session soon. Hey, it's
Okay, I have
literally
work tomorrow, and it's yeah,
we
11:30 p.m.
have to do this more often.
Yeah, sure. Just call me. I'm here.
So this time we didn't have anything planned. Everything was just, you know, run free. And I think that's cool, because then we can read response or stuff from the chat and just answer that and talk about just basically anything like bananas.
I just have to say thank you so much for having me, Kang. It's so much fun to collaborate on stuff and to really exchange different experiences
Yeah.
in the growing space, and it is so much fun, and to meet so many new fans of yours. It's a great time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, guys. So if you guys are still listening, Chris and I are working together on a bunch of projects, and basically we're just bringing awareness to basically anybody who wants to listen. We want people to do gardening. We want to, sort of like uh, have everyone join and create a community for gardening to share free information. So if you haven't seen our website, it's called kcdgarden.com. Check it out. It's a work in progress. Everyone can join. Anyone can be a member, and you can post your own stuff on there. So help us write something about the stuff that you're growing so that the information can be shared with all people around the world, and get people into gardening, growing things, and have fun. It's just growing plants is it's just an amazing thing. It takes a lot of stress out, and it just it's wonderful.
That's why we're here. We're
Yeah.
doing it because we are first and foremost passionate about the hobby,
Mhm.
and it's just a fun way to connect with people and to see what kind of inspiration we can get, and to just see the way the varieties of pepper you have produced, Kang, like the I'm still
Like the
what's it
lemon
called?
starburst that you
The
have.
lemon starburst, yeah, of course, it's lemon starburst. So to just see that kind of thing go into the community, and people exchanging ideas and recipes and swapping seeds and all those kinds of things. That's the fun of it. And like my hydroponic setup, everything is something that I'm doing because I would like to share and to get ideas and feedback from the community, and it is so much fun. So. Thank you for everyone that wanted to listen to me today.
Yeah, so it's just great bringing everyone together, share our experience. There's a lot of mistakes that we made, and there's something that maybe we improved, and so that's basically what we're trying to do. We share our information that we've gained by learning from other people, with everybody else. And KCD Garden is a space where you can just, if you have an interesting plants that nobody ever seen before, share it with us, write about it, take pictures and show us, and so that other people can know about this amazing varieties of things that you're growing. So that's what KCD is for. Everything is completely free, so everybody's welcome to be a member and make this thing big. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, and maybe we'll do this again soon, huh, Chris?
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thank you, guys and gals.